Thank you so much for coming to Hong Kong. It's our pleasure to have you here. So it's your first time in Hong Kong, and how do you like about Hong Kong?
Thank you for having me. So far, I've been enjoying my time in Hong Kong. It's really nice, people are really nice, and I hope to come back again.
Our first question would be, how do your brand Fort Manlé and Rasei Fort means to you, and what's the difference, would you say, between Fort Manlé and Rasei Fort?
So for me, Fort Manlé and Rasei Fort, I don't feel there's a difference in between them. The only difference is that the Rasei Fort brand, which I brought out after the Fort Manlé, has been more like an experimental project where I have limited access to some materials. Knowing that I can't keep it ongoing, as it's not sustainable, I make limited batches of perfume. The Fort Manlé also started in that manner. I didn't plan on the brand being an ongoing business. It was more of a hobby or a passion. So after the brand grew and got recognized, then I had to keep the production up. It became repetitive in making the same batches of perfume over and time again. So in order to give me that, freedom to sort of just go back to creating perfumes again and, not being stuck in the same pattern of the business and repeating the same fragrances, I was able to make perfumes as I used to when I started Fort Manlé, pre-Fort Manlé. So before the Fort Manlé brand was even a brand, I was just making perfumes because that's what I enjoy doing. So I guess the Rasei Fort brand is a way for me to just be a little bit more experimental and creative with ideas and inspirations.
This would be a lot of people who are interested in your brands. Second question would be, the new packaging of Fort Manlé is 25% more expensive than the old packaging. How would you comment on the new fragrance? Is there any particular reasons behind the increment of the fragrance with the same name, say Harem Rose or Fatty Sultan Mumit?
So the concentration of some of the perfumes I've increased. Some of the raw materials which I've been using in some of the formulas have gone up in price, and due to that reason, as well as the cost of our new packaging. Although the previous bottles might seem like they're more expensive because they're metal plaques, the new presentation is actually more costly.
Oh, it's actually more costly?
Yeah, so the labels are professionally designed by a company in Melbourne who work with high-end cigar and wine labels, and the material that they use in that paper is the same quality of those high-end cigar labels and what have you. So I feel that it's kind of deceiving in a sense where you look back at the old bottles and say, why have they gone with paper labels now? But actually the reason for that is more because it's more sustainable, and it was a lot more easier for me because I don't have a big production. I don't have a team of workers or a warehouse. I do everything from myself from start to finish. So the labeling of metal plaques was quite time consuming, and painting the bottles, because the bottles used to come transparent bottles, and then I'd get them painted and then get the labels, and sometimes the labels were not straight. They had sort of like a bend in them, so they wouldn't stick. And then when I put the glue, I had to wait 24 hours for it to dry, and sometimes when they dried, they'd be kind of crooked and wonky. And so I thought, if the production's going up and more and more people are getting to know the brand, then I want to be able to reach everywhere. What I mean by everywhere is like Europe, Asia, the main places, the boutiques. I need to do something that's going to be a lot more time efficient, and so that's why we decided that to change the presentation. And I had to come up with something that would, I knew it was going to be difficult to do something that's as good as metal plaques without being metal. So that's the design I went for. So everything from the caps to the labels to the bottles I chose, and we put together. So I mean, I hope that There's mixed emotions about it. Some people prefer the old bottles and some people prefer the new bottles. What do you guys think?
They probably like the old ones.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, the people who say, "Oh, bring back the old bottles," I feel like telling them, like, how about come help me label them, It's because nobody gets to see the behind the scenes what's happening. So I feel like it was a little bit problematic because I used to get people complain as well. My label came off, or the paint on the bottles started, because when alcohol would come onto the bottle, the paint would strip off. So yeah, it wasn't very professional, I think.
So how long does it take for you to create a perfume in general? So let's say you discontinued 4 fragrances 2 years ago, and then you launched 3 in a row: Honiara, All the Queensman, and also Late Harvest in a row. So for these 3, how long does it take for you to create from draft to finish?
Some people might like to work where they just knuckle down on one fragrance until it's finished and then start a second one. For me, it's more, I work on many ideas at the same time. So over the years, I've developed a large and extensive point of reference and compositions where I refer back to from time and time again. So I'll make a fragrance and then I'll put it aside, and then maybe I won't come back to it for a few weeks, and then I'll come back to it and then smell that while I've worked on so many others. And then during that process, there might be something there in one of them that I find quite interesting. So then I'll go back to it. So it's really difficult to pinpoint a time frame, like it took me this long or that long, because that's not the way I work. So it seems like, okay, you brought out 3 fragrances in such a short amount of time, but it's not. It's really been like a 10-year progress to get to those fragrances, because in order to being self-taught, there's a lot of trial and error that you do. Not being classically trained and not knowing how certain perfumes and naturals react with one another, it's difficult to do it without having tested. So there's a lot of experimental phases in the perfume. So that being said, I would say that it's probably taken a lot longer than it seems, because the formulas have always been there. It's just certain times I end up going back to the fragrance to change it or add something or take something away. So each fragrance that is launched, it's not something that's I just made now. It's something that I've been developing over the past 10 years of experimenting with perfumes.
And when you're making your fragrance, how do you tell if it's finished or complete and you start working on it?
I normally don't do that. Usually other people say it's good, because I'm never really satisfied with the end result, because the only time I sort of stop and say, okay, that's good, is when I'll visit a perfumery and sort of smell the perfumes out there, and then I'm like, okay, like if they're releasing like this and it's it's popular and it's doing good, then I think my one's okay. And sometimes what I do is I'll trick my mind into thinking, I'll say that this is not mine. I'll put the bottle there and I'll pretend I'm in like some perfumery, and I'm like, well, this is the new one by Guerlain, or like a new Hermes. Like I play a scenario in my head to trick my mind to think that I didn't make it. So then I spray it and smell it with that mindset. So I can be more like neutral, or like coming as a consumer, rather than this is mine, I made it. Because for me, when I go to a perfumery and I smell perfume, for many people it's nice, not nice. But for me, I'm like, when I smell it, I'm just smelling the aroma chemicals, the materials used in the composition. So if I'm picking up notes that I'm familiar with and I know how it's kind of constructed, depending on how complex that is, it's either like, if it's too simple in my mind, like when I smell it, I don't think it's very good. And so the perfumes that really, that I feel, that I love, are the ones that I don't know what's going on. So I'll spray it, I'll smell it, it's nice and I don't know what's going on, and it has a nice transition from top to the base, and then someone else would have to tell me like, yeah, that's it, that's good, that's really nice, and then I would say, okay, let's launch it. But usually I have to launch stuff that's not to my taste also. Like the last launch, V for Vetiver, I'm not really a fan of. I actually don't like the perfume that much because I'm not a vetiver guy. But I wanted to make something a little bit like bold, earthy, and I know a lot of people like vetiver, so yeah, I have to think about to give some versatility or mix it up a little bit in the range. Otherwise, if they're all kind of similar.
But it doesn't smell like for V for Vetiver. It doesn't smell too obvious for me as well. It's quite boozy.
It's quite boozy. Yeah, it's quite boozy, earthy, and quite raw. I use the Javanese vetiver in that, so it's probably my least favorite vetiver.
It's your least favorite. So what's your favorite of your vetiver?
Vetiver? I really like the Haitian vetiver, and there's a double distilled vetiver also that's from there. That's really, really smooth. I like to use that vetiver usually, because what I like to do is use certain notes that are quite, let's say, not as nice on their own, and maybe one or two of them in a formula and try to bring that harmony between them. So like in Bozhnikov, you've got that smoky oud, and then pairing it with lavender and vanilla, and bring that harmony between floral sweetness and that dark smokiness, and fusing it together where it seems seamless. That I tried to do that V for Vetiver also, because the Javanese vetiver is quite pungent and strong and earthy. And so adding sort of like some gourmand notes. And sometimes a lot of people say that it smells like boozy, like it's got wine or something, but it actually doesn't have any wine, or like it has chocolate and cherry. So those sort of elements can give off a boozy aroma, even though there's no booze.
Yes. Do you judge the success of your perfume or your brand by how well they sell or the rewards you earn?
That's a really good question, Patrick. I would say if it's selling, like, that fragrance sells a lot. So is it successful? Then I would say yes, it is, because it sells. That I don't have another job apart from making perfume. So for me, yeah, it's successful. But personally, for me, it doesn't really feel like that's the success. I like when I get positive feedback from enthusiasts that really love perfume and who really know their stuff, to talk about the perfume itself and go into great detail as to why they like it, because that's what I enjoy. That's how I feel like, because I don't really know exactly which perfume is doing well in which part of the world at the moment. It's more about the feedback that I get from the fans, especially when they are really, really passionate about perfume. So that gives me that sense of joy and pleasure. So I would say, for me, that's the success part, that what I'm doing with love and passion and enthusiasm, I'm getting rewarded by the people appreciating that, because there's a lot of hardships in making perfume. There's a lot of let's say, time that you spend in your thoughts.
Right.
That takes up most of your time away from your family, your own. Like sometimes you could be out, that your mind's always working. Being creative it's not an easy thing, because you're constantly thinking of the next thing, especially with perfume, because as long as you breathe, you're smelling. So when you're smelling, you're always thinking. So when I smell someone's BO, you're already thinking something, right? Like, oh, this guy stinks, or that guy smells nice. And then, so you're always at work, because you're breathing air. So the inspiration's always coming at different times of the day. When you actually make something and you feel that inspiration, and you're able to work on that and bring it forward into the market, and then people smell it. Because a lot of the times, when you see a perfume on the shelf, for most people, that it's just another perfume. It's just like, they probably imagine like a conveyor belt, a factory of making perfume, and it's easy. The perfumer just puts a few formulas down, gives it to the company, and then they start marketing and whatever. But with Fort Manlé, everything that you see is it starts from me online, ordering materials, coming back, smelling them, going out, putting them aside, coming back and forth. And then when it's finally ready, blending it, letting it macerate, filling them up by hand individually, then labeling them, and then so there's a lot of labor and love that's put into the perfumes, and so the best part about all of that is when you get the fans and people who really enjoy your work and appreciate it. That's what keeps me going.
So here comes our last questions. How does your family support you throughout the years when you consider turning your perfume making, like your hobby, into a career?
Yeah, they're very supportive. At the beginning, even when I was doing the perfumes, it was more a hobby. I never wrote down the formula. I'm trying to make the perfume again, the perfume version of Colonia, by smelling it, and it's been difficult, but hopefully I'll get there.
It will never be the same, right? So maybe you could call it Colonia Intense or like Colonia.
Yeah, maybe I'll Colonia.
Version 2.
I'll spell it with a C this time, not a K.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming to Santinish,
Thank you.
taking the interview with us.
Thank you
so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the stay in Hong Kong.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you everyone for your support. And if you haven't tried Fort Manlé, please go out there and check it out.
And most of them have.
Yeah, and give me your feedback. And I don't mind if you don't like it.
Direct email.
Direct, yeah. No, not me.
Me.
Yeah,
him.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.